Hello and welcome to Conversations in Cleantech, the podcast that celebrates the clean tech industry and the people that power it, brought to you by Brightsmith. I'm your host, Jenny Gladman, and for this fourth season, I'll be interviewing leaders, forward thinkers, and entrepreneurs from around the world to explore the opportunities, challenges, and rewards of working in clean tech, and more specifically within hydrogen. We'll be hearing from individuals with very different focuses within hydrogen, but with one clear goal of how we can fuel a cleaner, greener future. In addition, they'll be offering you some tokens of wisdom to enlighten, engage, and inspire everyone to live their purpose every single day. Today's guest has had an extremely interesting career spanning over a decade in the energy industry. Now, through a little bit of fate in circumstances and a huge amount of drive, passion, and determination, she is the Global Director of Strategy and Growth for Hydrogen at Worley. In this position, she explores opportunities for genuine transformation within the hydrogen marketplace, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into that later in the conversation. Outside of work, she is a part of various organizations and previously served as the president of Women in Worley, the Houston chapter. She's very passionate about sustainability and being socially, environmentally responsible. Today's guest is Noureen Faizee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that terrific introduction, Jenny. And, thanks for having me here. And hello, everyone. My name is Noureen Faizee, and I have over 14 years of experience in the energy industry. Like Jenny said, I am the strategy director for hydrogen at Worley. And Worley is a global leader in providing engineering and consulting services across the energy, chemicals, and resources sector. And as a leading service provider in these sectors, we have a key role in shaping as well as supporting the transition to a low carbon world. And our purpose is simple, and that is to deliver a more sustainable world. On a personal front, I am originally from India and I came to the United States in 2006 to pursue my master's in chemical engineering. And I have been here ever since. My husband is a marine engineer. We have twins, boy and a girl, who are 7 years old. We're all looking forward to the holiday season now.
Brilliant. Thank you for the intro, Noureen. It's great to hear about some of the things that you've achieved. And actually, you touched on your earlier life in India, and I'd love to give a bit of context to where you came from. Can you tell us a little bit about your early life before we move on to your education and your career?
Yeah, in India, at least in my time, engineering and medicine are the two most sought after professions for a middle class India. And although I initially considered becoming a doctor as a kid, the moment I realized I had to dissect like dead bugs and dead bodies as part of the curriculum, I decided engineering is probably a better choice for me. And I also come from a very conservative family where education wasn't considered as important, and especially for girls, right? But that was the exact opposite of what my parents believed in. We are three sisters. My parents always believe that long-term success and financial independence comes from academic excellence. But I thought that would essentially mean completing my bachelor's in engineering and then finding a job in India. But my mom's plans were like totally on a different level. She wanted me to go abroad and, do higher studies. And if not for her dreams and her sacrifices, her support and encouragement, I wouldn't have been where I am today. So it's been, I owe it to my parents, and it's been a fantastic journey. And I'm just so thankful and grateful for them to be providing me of these opportunities.
Ah, that's a lovely story. And also one, it's great to hear when perhaps the wider society didn't see things that way and your parents were really quite progressive in their attitude. And it sounds like it's been an amazing move for you to move to the US and shaping your career and shaping your family too. And to go into your study, because I think that's kind of crucial, the engineering background into how you got where you are today. Can you tell us a bit about your master's and then how that led into your early career?
Yeah, I mean, my career journey has been quite interesting. So when I was doing my master's here in the US, I got hired as an intern for a startup company where I later became a full-time engineer. This company had a technology of making liquid fuels from waste biomass, and was working with the US Department of Energy at that time. And I was involved in this project right from lab scale research to construction and operation of the pilot plant. We proved it to be technically feasible, but we couldn't demonstrate commercial viability at that time. And this was back in 2008, when natural gas prices were so low that it didn't make economic sense to convert biomass to syngas and then syngas to liquid fuels. So after that project, I got an offer from Worley to join as a process engineer. And that's when I moved to Houston in 2012. And Worley was actually, predominantly an oil and gas based business at that time. But over the years, it's been quite phenomenal to see the company transform to where it is today. The world around us and our industry is changing more rapidly than anyone imagined, and so our core business is also, shifting in response to the world's climate change problem as well as our customer needs. And so we are working on strategies to accelerate our growth into these key sustainability related markets, such as carbon capture, wind, solar, electrification, and hydrogen. So today we have a portfolio of more than 3,000 projects related to energy transition, with more than 200 projects in low carbon hydrogen alone. And, those are not like full EPC type projects. Those are like really in the front end feasibility and conceptual studies. But the bottom line is that we are on that journey, and it's just exciting to be a part of that. So, as a company, we're also aspiring to achieve like 75% of our revenue from sustainability related projects by 2026. So you can see, from an oil and gas predominant business to a sustainability business in just a span of a few years is quite an achievement. And so this year, as part of delivering that strategy and working towards that ambition, I moved into our hydrogen business. And working towards a sustainable, clean future for us, for our future generations, has always been my passion. So it feels like I've come a full circle where I've started my journey working on a renewable energy project with the US Department of Energy to working now for Worley in this new fuels business, which is hydrogen. So, I mean, it's just fantastic, and I couldn't wait to see what more to come in the next few years.
And it's nice that you touched on the transformation of the business, because I think a lot of people out there hear the names of oil and gas companies and immediately write them off, but actually they're the companies that arguably have the biggest impact when they transition. There's incredible startups out there, but it's much more difficult for them to have such a step change impact. Whereas actually, when you have a huge oil and gas organization making that transition, the overall impact on the energy transition can be huge. So it must be really exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have like decades of experience executing all these complex oil and gas projects onshore and offshore. We have a very wide customer base. So I think the impact that we can have as an organization, as well as our customers towards the energy industry, is going to be not only important, but it's going to be a significant needle mover in terms of reducing the carbon emissions intensity, because we have technologies that could lower the emissions. We have the expertise, and we have subject matter knowledge and decades of experience in this field. So I think that will surely be a nice synergy into transitioning into the low carbon. And I mean, energy is energy in the at the end of the day. It's about making it more sustainable, more affordable, and also available, right? So it's all those three things together.
Brilliant. And one thing I would like to go back to, we talked about how you started life as an engineer, and now you're obviously working in an engineering focused organization, but your role is really quite different. And in my intro, I mentioned fate, and I think for a bit of context for our listeners, Noureen kindly explained her story to me before. And when she took her maternity leave to have twins, which I'm still in awe of anybody that can do that, she returned to something slightly different. So I'll hand back to you to tell your story. But if you can give us the lowdown on what that return to work looked like and how it shaped your future career.
Yeah, I mean, my maternity leaves has been one of those turning points in my career. I delivered my twins in 2015, and this was when the oil prices dropped by more than 50% compared to its previous year. So it was quite a big hit to the industry and, of course, as a business as well. So I didn't have a lot of oil and gas projects to go back to. Was quite depressed whether I would have any work or not. But as I was nearing the end of my maternity leave, fortunately I had this opportunity to be an environmental permit specialist for a big petrochemical facility. And this was one of those career defining projects for me, as I have a lot of interaction with our customers, with our other co-workers, to bring all the necessary documentation together for obtaining the required permits at a local, state, and from federal agencies for the project, because obtaining these permits was very critical for the success of any project, because failure to comply can lead to project delays and massive fines. So this was like a huge project, and therefore, after my work on this project, I got recognized as key talent in my company. And a few years later, I had the opportunity to participate in like a company wide future leaders program, which then opened the door for me to get to go into the strategy role that I am in currently today. So even in that future leaders program, when I applied for it and when I was interviewed for it, I want to say that I was not in the top future leaders finalists. But then the fact that I am here today, pursuing a different profession that I like, the work that I'm doing, I think it is important to recognize failures as stepping stones to success. I mean, literally, that is true in my case, because even though I wasn't I wasn't the winner of that program, it allowed me to broaden my network. It allowed me to showcase my capabilities. So just a couple of months later, after the program ended, the program sponsors reached out to me and asked me, hey, you're working on the projects as an engineer. We have this part-time role in the strategy group. Would you be interested in taking on that? And that's how it happened. And I've been doing strategy since 2018. Initially led that for our core business, the oil and gas business, and now I'm doing it for hydrogen. And it's been just quite an amazing journey of twists and turns. I just want to encourage all my listeners to not be dejected of any failures that come through your way. I mean, you fail only when you don't try it. Any opportunity that knocks on your door, just give it a shot. And you just never know. You just never know how things might turn out.
It's a great story, and I think often people are very daunted coming back from maternity leave, and you kind of proved that not only did you come back successfully, but you ended up taking a path which perhaps has suited you better. And being a people person and working on that side of the business sounds like it's been amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And touching on coming back to work as part of a dual professional couple as well, I think it's quite a different story to some have. How have you found that?
I mean, managing work and personal life is definitely not easy for dual career couples in general, and even more so when there is no family close by to support. Like I said, my family is all based in India. So it was just me, my husband, and my twins. But I am so lucky that both my parents and in laws used to come for months at a time and took turns while my kids were just too young. And once they were about like 12, 18 months old, was when we started sending them to daycare. And oh my God, what a challenge it was, with frequent sicknesses and taking leave from work so often. And both me and my husband are, again, very lucky to be working for an organization that did provide some flexibility and also had managers who were outstanding, right? Because sometimes the organization has all these flexible programs and principles, but at the end of the day, it's the manager that you should have that good working relationship with. And they were very understanding, so we could make it work. But in general, I think supporting dual career couples, regardless of their gender, age, job position they're in, or anything else, should be, on top of mind for all the business leaders today, because that value a diverse and inclusive workplace, because it needs a shift in thinking, a shift in culture. And COVID to a lot of extent has done that already. Just giving that flexibility to your employees would, there would be a significant payoff in terms of not just productivity and engagement, but also talent attraction and retention, which we are seeing as a challenge in the industry today. So people want to have that flexibility, people want to have control, not just over their professional life, but also to be able to do things personally, because there's life outside of work, right? So you need to be able to manage those two things together, hand in hand.
I agree. And I'm embarking on the daycare journey myself, as you may be able to tell from the throat. And it's certainly a tricky one, and having supportive people around you is crucial, because it is difficult. And I think until I was a parent myself, I probably wasn't as understanding as I could have been, because really you kind of have to go through it to understand. Um, and then moving on to kind of hydrogen, which is the topic of the series. And actually, it's a funny world where you can be in it for a year and almost be a veteran. So, since that you're at that point, can you give us a bit of a take on the hydrogen industry as a whole, and then where you fit within that?
Yeah. When someone recently asked me where I'm based out of, I inadvertently said that I live in hydrogen. I am based out of Houston, but the number of times I use the word hydrogen in my daily conversations as well, you get the idea, right? And rightfully so, because the industry is experiencing like unprecedented growth and momentum. But despite all the buzz surrounding hydrogen, I think there is still a lack of awareness about the use of hydrogen, its safety, and its role in the future energy mix. National level net zero targets and policy support, financial incentives, all those are very great for introducing new energies in the mix. But education and creating awareness of these new fuels is also equally important, because no matter how attractive the economics are, if the public doesn't accept it, it isn't going to happen. So it is very important for us to take any opportunity we get to increase the awareness of how hydrogen is going to have long-term benefits for a clean and sustainable world, and that too in a safe manner. And just like any other fuel, right, we've grown comfortable using natural gas or gasoline that we use in our day-to-day life. Hydrogen is also very same. It is only unsafe if it's not handled properly, and a number of hydrogen properties make it safer to handle and use than the fuels commonly used today. Hydrogen is non-toxic, it is lighter than air and gasoline vapor, which means that it will disperse quickly into the atmosphere in the event of a leak. And while it is important that we continue to develop robust safety standards for hydrogen's use in new applications, hydrogen itself is not new. It's been used for decades in space applications, in refineries, in fertilizer production, and in transport sector, the fuel cell electric vehicles and hydrogen fueling stations are just as safe as conventional systems today, because they also have to meet the same rigorous safety standards that apply to all consumer vehicles. So just want to reiterate that it is a safe fuel, and there is hope that we will have a much cleaner future if hydrogen is going to be a significant part of the energy mix in the years to come. And from a commitment and planning standpoint, I think we've seen a significant increase in the amount of announced and planned national hydrogen policies in the last 2 years. If we compare it in the early 2019, 2020, only a handful of countries had started working on hydrogen strategies. But as of November 2022, 38 countries have announced national hydrogen strategies. The Europe, Middle East, and the Africa region is leading with 25 countries, seven in the Americas, and six in the Asia Pacific region. But then there are still, significant barriers to truly, to overcome, to truly enable a hydrogen economy at scale. And I think we've all heard this like a million times before, but I'll say it again, that today's hydrogen market faces like the classic chicken and egg problem between the supply and demand, and both lacking secure volumes from each other to help establish that value chain. And the supply chain is also quite complex and very broad, ranging from utilities to providing power and water, to hydrogen manufacturing equipment, to storage, to transport and distribution to end use markets. It's a huge supply chain. And currently, the policies from the governments, it focuses heavily on the supply side of the equation and less on the demand side, right? So there has to be focus on what's needed to trigger the demand, and then work on developing that infrastructure and supply chain to fulfill that demand, and continuing to develop and build infrastructure that way. The way we currently do will not be sufficient, because we are trying we're talking about establishing the full economy by the end of this decade, and we have only 8 years to do that. And that's not a lot of time. So we need to come up with new ways of working. And as a business, as an industry, we need to make systemic changes to the way we share value, to the way we create partnerships, innovation, standardization, all while leveraging digital tools and technologies. So I think that's a long, long answer, and I could go on at least for an hour or two talking about the hydrogen industry. There's just so much to cover, but just wanted to give some brief points on a very high level.
And actually, that brings me perfectly to the next question. Now, we've talked before about learning and your enjoyment of learning. And I think, given the speed of change and the acceleration of the growth in the sector, learning is actually one of the most challenging things, because we need to educate people outside of the sector on the benefits, but also keep the education level within the sector high. So, how do you think we can tackle that?
Thanks for asking me this question, because I absolutely think that addressing a global challenge as complex as climate change needs a variety of solutions. And I believe one powerful tool to solve this challenge is education, and especially educating our younger generations, right? Because when we are talking about net zero targets being achieved 20 or 30 years from now, any changes to our world, our system, the way we live will need to include voices, innovative ideas, and talent from these kids, which will become increasingly important as they become our future climate champions. And in fact, I've been volunteering with an organization named Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation. It is an organization that started back in 2008, so long before the buzzwords such as climate change and sustainability, decarbonization even became a trend, right? And the mission of this organization is to integrate concepts of sustainability in children's curriculum starting from kindergarten to class 12. And it's such an important mission that I connect to. I mean, as a mom, having my kids and wanting them to have a better life in future, I think I really connected with this organization, and I've been an active volunteer for them over the last 2 years. And this organization, it works with schools, teachers, and students that can play a critical role in increasing awareness of the local communities on climate and disaster risk issues, and also promote local actions to build resilience. But you don't have to be volunteering for any organizations, anything. Sustainability, it starts with you, the way you live, the way you set examples to your friends and family, and talking about all these issues with your neighbors, with your co-workers. I think it's just important to keep reiterating the fact that we are going to see a different world, a much cleaner world, with new fuels coming into the mix.
Lovely. And I think for any of our listeners that really rings true with, please get in touch with Noreen, because I think, as much as everyone doesn't have to be a volunteer, they could certainly benefit from more volunteers who have that sector specific knowledge and can really pass that on. And also, if you imagine how many children that's reaching, it's having a huge impact on that next generation. So thank you for volunteering, but also let's encourage some others who think that they would have something to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, please reach out if you have any questions regarding the organization. You can, feel free to check my LinkedIn profile, and I've mentioned about some of the work that we did for self as well. And any ideas, any thoughts about how we can increase the scale of the impact, I would really appreciate.
Excellent. And we will also link it in any of the posts we do on social media, the charity, so people can have a look and see what they're all about for themselves as well. One other question I had, and again, we mentioned in the intro that you were previously the president of Women in Worley. And I guess it was a really exciting time for you to be doing that. But what did that mean to you personally, and what sort of impact has that had within the organization?
Yes, I did serve as the president of Women of Worley. We call it the WOW group. And this was a few years ago. I just served on that network for a year. But at Worley, we know a diverse team is a strong team. And that network aims to promote a workplace committed to challenging, gender inequalities, conscious and unconscious bias, to creating a truly inclusive global organization from our offices to our work sites, where everyone is treated equally. They feel safe and accepted, as well as to promote opportunities for talented women to succeed and establish a strong global network of both men and women professionals to share leadership experience and knowledge. So we also have some men in this network to just share their leadership journey and provide guidance to the women of Worley. And the pandemic has changed everyone, right? Women want more flexibility, like we discussed. They want more support. They want to be recognized, and they also want to have like more opportunities. And we have some fantastic initiatives as part of the WOW network. And one such initiative is Women Pipeline to CEO. And this idea, the idea for this initiative came from a Wall Street Journal article titled "Where Are All the Women CEOs?" This was published in 2020, and it mentioned that in 2019, 307 companies from the Russell 3000 index appointed new CEOs. Only 26 were women out of those 307 companies. And furthermore, 17 female CEOs stepped down or were let go during that time. So it's very eye opening, and the our Houston business leader at that time, he suggested that we start this initiative because the objective was to continue to advance our female talent at a healthy rate, and also do this in a way that builds the right credibility in the right roles along their career journeys. I mean, it's a long way to go for our industry, just as it is for many others, where we want to see more and more women taking on these senior leadership roles, which are directly impacting the business bottom line. And I'm just proud to be working for a company like Worley, where we are having these kind of initiatives, and having continued conversations at all levels of the organization, so the women get recognized and are promoted for their good work. So
That's brilliant. And you're clearly very ambitious. What's next for you?
you know it's a good question. Yeah, so far, I've kind of been lucky in terms of the journeys that I took over the last 14 years. I did know very early on that I'm not a calculations person designing pumps and heat exchangers, being a process engineer, but I do like interacting a lot with people. That just keeps me so motivated. And in the strategy role, I think it's been a great journey, understanding the macro fundamentals of the market and why things are done the way they're done, and understanding the trends and challenges and opportunities. But I might want to move into a business development role, where I am actually talking to the customers, bringing it more business to Worley. Again, that's another people's type of role, where you would be connecting with a lot of different stakeholders in my own company as well as the customer's company, to bring the solutions together. So yeah, I mean, that is my ambition, is to continue to work on the within the low carbon energy space and be a part of the transformation that the world is going to see. So quite excited.
And actually, that's a topic we often reach in the podcast in various previous episodes, is that what does the sector need to be successful? And actually, you're an amazing example of somebody who studied one thing, entered the sector as that, has taken a full U-turn into strategy, and then you're still planning your next move into something different again. So I think my answer to that is always the sector needs talented people who are ambitious and creative and have different ideas. And actually, the role that you do is less important than the wider part that you play.
Yeah, I mean, just be open for opportunities, be open to keep learning new things. There's never you could, I mean, I truly believe that I could never be an expert in things. There's always something new to learn, be it from more experienced individuals or be it from the future generations. I think it's just all about learning and growing together.
Fantastic. Well, my very last question to you is, what do you see for the future of hydrogen? And I know that's a huge question, but if there's any kind of couple of tidbits that you could pull out, that things that you think within the next couple of years, these are some of the achievements that we will see.
Yeah, Jenny, like I mentioned, I think hydrogen is experiencing quite a bit of a momentum over the last couple of years, and in fact, the U.S. is currently at an inflection point in terms of its action to tackle climate change. And of course, hydrogen has a huge role to play in the global decarbonization strategy. In the US, the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed this year has given the industry its much needed boost. But like I mentioned previously, there are still some barriers similar to those in other regions across the globe that we will have to address, because government support to accelerate deployment of hydrogen production is great, but the demand side of the equation is still a bit unclear. So the offtake market for hydrogen is limited and also varied at the same time, which makes it a little bit more complex. And unlike the LNG industry, which was traded primarily for transporting natural gas, hydrogen could have various potential end uses, such as in fertilizer or refining, mobility, cement, steel, etc. In which case, there would be multiple offtake agreements and higher risk of exposure to different markets. So there is a little bit of an uncertainty and concerns over bankability, and long term offtake agreements are holding the investors back. And that's why we are seeing not as many projects reaching the FID as we want to. But I think if we address these issues, to address these issues, we need a whole new level of collaboration and build long lasting partnerships across both public and private sectors to truly enable the hydrogen economy of the future. But I just want to say that hydrogen is not just hype. There is hope that it will clearly become a major, a source of energy in the years to come. And this decade would be that defining decade for hydrogen.
A great answer, and I think it is. You're right. There is huge amounts of hope, and there's always those people that are more considered and take a little longer. But we're seeing huge momentum, and that upward curve is getting steeper. So, yeah, here's to the next few years, and hopefully we'll redo this show in 3 or 4 years, and you can talk about how that's already happened.
Yeah, yeah. Would we, we will look back at this time and, think about all the great work that we have done together to make that a reality. So couldn't wait to make that happen.
Fantastic. Well, Noreen, thank you for sharing your story. It's an amazing one, and I wish you every success with your career, and with achieving some of these goals that we've got coming to us in the next few years in the hydrogen sector more generally. And yeah, thank you for being a wonderful guest and for joining Conversations in Cleantech.
Thank you for this opportunity, Jenny. Really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I hope our audience had got some good thoughts from this podcast as well. And look forward to staying connected.
Fantastic. Thanks, Noureen.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Conversations in Cleantech, brought to you by Brightsmith. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Every time you do, it helps others to find the show. For more information on how Brightsmith can help you to build a sustainable future through identifying, attracting, and retaining diverse talent, please head over to brightsmithgroup.com. Join us next time for more Conversations in Cleantech.